Oh, hello there. Welcome back to another video. How cool is this? I don't even need to jack up the Ford anymore to check for oil leaks down there. Funny enough, even though it is a Ford, it doesn't really leak any oil. That's probably because I haven't been in there yet. But let's admit it, guys. Come on. This thing looks like a good time guaranteed. Especially since building a backyard lift kit for it, lifting up the front and the back by about 3 inches. But unfortunately, I suspect some kind of wiring gremlin got into it, and at the moment it isn't running. Let's just say I'm hoping it's only some kind of wiring issue and not something a bit more serious. But I want to remove the power mode standalone ECU, remove all the wires, and completely redo everything a bit better than I did the first time, because obviously I didn't do a very good job the first time around. That's kind of boring and very time consuming. So when you look over here, we have the Mazda-Rati Benz, and we have a bunch of much cooler parts that we can start throwing on the car and get it back on the ground and finally get this thing rolling. Let's start like this. We have the W203 chassis with the Mazda FE3 engine that will be going into it, hence why Mazda-Rati Benz. And then we got the oil pan back from welding, so I do want to give a huge thanks to Chris for getting this welded for me. I just did all the measuring, the cutting, took all the pieces to him, and he got it welded up for me. Welding aluminium is an art form of its own, and he is pretty good at it, so we got that done. We do need to still add oil return for the turbo, but this one is too small. We're going to be adding a bigger one. We do need to add the dipstick still, but I do want to do a final test fit on the engine before we do all the final stuff on it, and then we will be adding a little oil splash plate at a later stage. But at least for now, we can throw that back on the engine and close the engine up, get the engine back in the car so we can move on with some other things. Then next up, as you guys know, got these awesome looking wheels for the car, but there was a few problems. So the offset of these wheels are very different from the stock wheels. So up in the front, we had the issue of the tire rubbing up against the shock, and then at the back, it kind of looked like the car was holding a fart. So the wheels were under the body and didn't really like the look of it. So we got some spacers made. So a while ago, I had to make some spacers for the Ford as well. So I already know where to get the raw aluminium, and then I have a place called CNC here in Clarkstorp that makes the spacers for me. We'll be adding a 20mm spacer up in the front of the Mazda-Rati Benz, and then at the back we'll be adding a 30mm spacer. Now this was easier said than done, and I will kind of explain in a minute while we get the wheels on there what the issues are that I ran into. And then last but not least, once we get the wheels back onto the car and have it rolling for the first time in freaking months, and we get the oil pan on the engine, get the engine back in there, we should be ready to start figuring out how we're going to mount the radiator and the intercooler. So as you can see, we already got the shroud made for the intercooler as well as the fan mounted to it. The only thing left to do is make some new end tanks for the intercooler. So this is a Nissan Navara intercooler that I just need to figure out the two end tanks. Should be pretty easy, so I want to get into that as well. One more thing for the OG subscribers that's been following along the M104 Turbo build since the beginning, I do want to give a little update on that thing. It's blown a head gasket now for the 3rd or 4th time. I don't even know. So stick around till the end of the video, and yeah, I'm kind of gonna explain what the idea is, what the plan is with that thing. But for now, let's get started on these wheels. Now, I probably should have given this a bit more thought before going through the trouble of making these wheel spacers, but at the time I thought I would just get longer wheel bolts where you can stick it through and that'll make up for the space of the spacer. Unfortunately, can't for the life of me find any longer wheel bolts So we'll be changing up the way the wheel connects up to the car entirely. We'll be adding some studs once I find some of them, having a hard time finding some of them as well. So we can get the car rolling for now, get the wheels on there, but there's going to be even more changes on that as well. Modifying a car to this extent, or building a car to this extent, is not the easiest thing. These things just take time, but at least the car is going to be able to move, like I said, for the first time in a couple of months. But yeah, let's get the wheels on the car with the spacers and see how it looks. Alright, so it's the next day. So last night I got around to getting the wheels onto the car, as well as the wheel spacers, got the oil pan onto the engine, got the engine back in the car, everything fits. I also went ahead and got the intake manifold as well as the turbo exhaust manifold on there, and as you can see, the car has moved for the first time in ages. And there it is with the wheels on, and it's movable. So I was expecting a bit more out of the wheel spacers, for the wheels to stick out a bit more, but at least we can move it and it's not rubbing up against the shocks anymore up in the front, and then at the back it doesn't seem to be holding in a fart anymore. But now that we are able to move it back to the M104 Turbo, it's just killing me having this thing stand over here in the sun. Like I said, it does have a blown head gasket, but it does still run. So I was thinking, let's move it to a place where there's a bit more shade, and the only place I have left, because this little area is basically my main working area, so we'll have the Mazda-Rati Benz over here and then the Ford until I can figure that out. But I want to move the M104 Turbo to back here, so I don't know if it picks up on camera, but there's not much room to move around in here. But I think I'm gonna reverse it in here and then somehow make this turn and have it standing under here. I have no idea if I will be able to get it in here, but I kind of have to, so we'll figure that out in a second. But yeah, the car is going to be standing for a while. We have some big plans to change a few things up, but let's move it to over here and then I'll explain a bit more about that. Really hoping this thing fires up, because I don't want to push it in there. But yeah, let's see. Hasn't ran in a couple of weeks. Holy shit. So, okay, I had to resort to some violence. So, I have the car jacked up over there, and then I'm going to use the engine hoist. It's hooked up to that pole over there, sticking against that pole, and I'm going to try to pull the car a bit this way, and then we should be able to clear this pole over here. I did ding the car a little bit, nothing too serious. Almost in there, so let's see if this will work. A bit sketchy, but gotta do what we gotta do. Can't believe I actually got this thing in here, but now I can feel a bit better with it not standing out there in the sun, and we can get to work on it. I also think it's going to be a great conversation piece at the barbecue area. But anyway, so the plan is basically, I will get into it a bit later in another video, but basically we're going to be redoing the hot side. So under the aluminium cover, there's a log style manifold, and we think it's a bit restrictive. And yeah, so we want to build a new turbo manifold for the car, as well as upgrade to a bigger turbo. Long story short, the first thing that's going to happen is this turbo is going to the Mazda-Rati Benz, and yeah, this turbo is actually perfect for that engine, so very excited about that, and we can do a lot more work on that thing. But let's step over there. Unfortunately, didn't get around to make those little end tanks of the intercooler, but having the car back over here, I just have the intercooler and the radiator in there. But there's a bit more planning and things like that that I need to do before making the final end tanks and brackets and everything like that. But I guess we'll get into that here very soon. And once we have the intercooler and the radiator mounted, we can start with the boost pipes and the water pipes and everything like that. There's still a hell of a lot of work to do, and I really need to get some kind of system going, because I'm kind of just all over the place with everything going on. But yeah, a lot of work to do, but I'm very excited about the future and what's to come, and I hope you guys are too. But for now, I think I'm gonna end this video off. Yeah, I'll see you next week, and we'll see what we can get up to. And like always, I really appreciate you guys following along on this journey.